What is the sound of one hand clapping?
I don't know. What is the sound of one... Oh!
Bonsoir, my fellow seekers of enlightenment. This is See You Next Time. Today we are once again foraging in the fascinating and profound waters of Zen Buddhism and exploring the world of Zen koans. Koans are a fundamental part of Zen teaching, and they are designed to challenge our ordinary approach to thinking and to awaken us to the true nature of reality.
I want you to shut off the logical part of your mind.
Okay.
Embrace nothingness.
You got it.
Become like an uncarved stone.
Done.
Bart! You're just pretending to know what I'm talking about.
True.
Well, it's very frustrating.
I'll bet.
They are riddles and stories which don't have logical solutions in the way we typically expect. Instead, they are often paradoxical and nonsensical statements and questions that point to something beyond words and concepts.
They're very kind of mysterious.
Yeah.
Inscrutable.
They never really said they are unscrutable.
You cannot scrut a
You
Chinaman.
cannot screw a Chinaman or a Chinaman.
They are unscrutable. They are non-scrutable.
Yeah.
If
yeah.
I was to go out in the street now and try and scrut a Chinaman,
You'd have no chance.
I would not, because they are inscrutable.
You could not screw a Chinaman for love nor money.
They are anti-scrutable.
Yeah, yeah.
I could possibly scrut a Chinese woman.
Well, I don't think you'd have any luck.
The purpose of the koan is to elicit in the student a state of mind called the Great Doubt. This is not the same as the commonplace doubt we feel when we are uncertain or sceptical about something, but rather a radical openness and curiosity that suspends all judgments and assumptions, a way of letting go of our attachments to our opinions and beliefs, and to explore the possibility of the new and unexpected. Thus, the Great Doubt is the door to enlightenment in Zen, a catalyst, a sudden breakthrough or initial revelation known as Kensho or Satori. This is the experience of seeing one's own true Buddha nature that is inherent in all beings. Koans typically connect to themes of non-duality and direct experience of reality, in addition to the Great Doubt and Enlightenment. One of the most well-known koans is, "Two hands clap and there is a sound." What is the sound of one hand?
Bart, I have a riddle for you. What's the sound of one hand clapping?
Piece of cake.
No, Bart, it's a 3,000-year-old riddle with no answer. It's supposed to clear your mind of conscious thought.
No answer. Lisa, listen up.
Here we are faced with the idea of non-duality, that is the notion that any separation of self and others is simply a mental barrier which does not actually correlate to our direct experience of reality.
Ooh.
So let's take a beat to get in the zone. Take a couple of deep breaths and let the moment come to you. Obedience. The Master Bankai's talks were attended not only by Zen students, but by persons of all ranks and sects. He never quoted sutras, nor indulged in scholastic dissertations. Instead, his words were spoken directly from his heart to the hearts of his listeners. His large audience angered a priest of the Nichiren sect, because the adherents had left to hear about Zen. The self-centered Nichiren priest came to the temple, determined to have a debate with Bankai. "Hey, Zen teacher," he called out. "Wait a minute. Whoever respects you will obey what you say, but a man like myself does not respect you. Can you make me obey you?" "Come up beside me and I will show you," said Bankai. Proudly, the priest pushed his way through the crowd to the teacher. Bankai smiled. "Come over to my left side." The priest obeyed. "No," said Bankai. "We may talk better if you are on the right side. Step over here." The priest proudly stepped over to the right. "You see," observed Bankai, "you are obeying me, and I think you are a gentle person. Now sit down and listen." So, my feelings on this one are that the Nichiren priest had his moves dictated by his ego. He wanted to be seen, in the eyes of this large crowd, as equal or greater than Bankai. Therefore, because he was blinded by his desire and attachment, he was also highly susceptible to the type of manipulation, for want of a better word, that Bankai was using. If you meet the Buddha, kill him. If you love, love openly. 20 monks and 1 nun, who was named Ishan, were practicing meditation with a certain Zen master. Ishan was very pretty, even though her head was shaved and her dress plain. Several monks secretly fell in love with her. One of them wrote her a love letter, insisting upon a private meeting. Ishan did not reply. The following day, the master gave a lecture to the group, and when it was over, Ishan arose. Addressing the one who had written to her, she said, "If you really love me so much, come and embrace me now." Here, I think we're looking at a scenario which everyone will probably relate to in some sense. The monk who wrote the letter had built a fictitious model of reality in his head and acted upon it with a desire and attachment to the end result, i.e. he wanted to get the girl. However, as is the case with the vast majority of such plans, it did not survive contact with reality. We can easily find ourselves building up positive expectations or catastrophizing and manufacturing worst-case scenarios. While planning can obviously be useful in many cases, over-attachment to an end result can be psychologically damaging. There is literally no benefit to mentally going through a series of actions and reactions based in illusion, when you could simply live it once and deal with what comes for better or worse. No loving kindness. There was an old woman in China who had supported a monk for over 20 years. She had built a little hut for him and fed him while he was meditating. Finally, she wondered just what progress he had made in all this time. To find out, she obtained the help of a girl rich in desire. "Go and embrace him," she told her, "and then ask him suddenly, 'What now?'" The girl called upon the monk, and without much ado caressed him, asking him what he was going to do about it. "An old tree grows on a cold rock in winter," replied the monk, somewhat poetically. "Nowhere is there any warmth." The girl returned and related what he had said. "To think I fed that fellow for 20 years, exclaimed the old woman in anger. "He showed no consideration for your needs, no disposition to explain your condition. He need not have responded to passion, but at least he should have evidenced some compassion." She at once went to the hut of the monk and burned it down. To me, the crux of this one lies in the attitude and intentions of the old woman who has housed the monk for 20 years. She has this desire to test him and see how he measures up to her standard of ethics. So it appears to me that she ethically goes and finds a hooker to ethically try and honey trap the guy. When he immediately sees through it and politely tells her to jog on, it offends the old woman tremendously. I think there's something to be said here about the intent behind people-pleasing as a trait. It can be subterfuge for the desire to control and manipulate, sometimes subconsciously, and, when it suddenly flips around to its polar opposite, it can lead to, say, burning down a monk's house when he doesn't behave how an old woman wants him to. What is Buddha? 3 pounds of flax! Announcement. Tanzan wrote 60 postal cards on the last day of his life and asked an attendant to mail them. Then he passed away. The cards read, "I am departing from this world. This is my last announcement. Tanzan, July 27th, 1892. I think this koan is particularly profound. It tells us, in no uncertain terms, that Zen masters are badass. Great waves. In the early days of the Meiji era, there lived a well-known wrestler called Onami, Great Waves. Onami was immensely strong and knew the art of wrestling. In his private bouts he defeated even his teacher, but in public he was so bashful that his own pupils threw him. Onami felt he should go to a Zen master for help. Hakuju, a wandering teacher, was stopping in a little temple nearby, so Onami went to see him and told him of his trouble. "Great Waves is your name," the teacher advised. So stay in this temple tonight. Imagine that you are those billows. You are no longer a wrestler who is afraid. You are those huge waves sweeping everything before them, swallowing all in their path. Do this and you will be the greatest wrestler in the land. The teacher retired. Onami sat in meditation, trying to imagine himself as waves. He thought of many different things. Then, gradually, he turned more and more to the feeling of the waves. As the night advanced, the waves became larger and larger. They swept away the flowers in their vases. Even the Buddha in the shrine was inundated. Before dawn, the temple was nothing but the ebb and flow of an immense sea. In the morning, the teacher found Onami meditating, a faint smile on his face. He patted the wrestler's shoulder. Now nothing can disturb you, he said. You are those waves. You will sweep everything before you. The same day, Onami entered the wrestling contest and won. After that, no one in Japan was able to defeat him. Reading this, I feel it's about the idea of connecting with your innermost self, understanding who you are, and being the best version of yourself that you can be. Through his deep meditation, Onami unleashes his true skills and is able to apply them to get out of his own way and break through the barrier of his shyness while performing in front of people. Without speaking, without silence, how can you express the truth? I always remember springtime in southern China. The birds sing among innumerable kinds of fragrant flowers. The moon cannot be stolen. Ryokan, a Zen master, lived the simplest kind of life in a little hut at the foot of a mountain. One evening, a thief visited the hut, only to discover that there was nothing to steal. Ryokan returned and caught him. "You have come a long way to visit me," he told the prowler, "and you should not return empty-handed. Please, take my clothes as a gift." The thief was bewildered. He took the clothes and slunk away. Ryokan sat naked, watching the moon. "Poor fellow," he mused. "I wish I could have given him this beautiful moon." The Zen master Ryokan chances upon a thief trying to steal from him, and where most of us would kick off, or, at the very least, be rather miffed, Ryokan is simply upset that he doesn't have more things for him to steal. This reveals the idea of flow and living in the moment, allowing what will be to proceed. The notion of non-duality, that everything and everyone are part of a universal whole, means that possessions which are stolen are simply being shifted to another part of that universal whole.
Until eventually we all become one glorious whole.
Rimmer, you heard the R, one glorious whole.
And that brings us to the end of our little meander around the edges of the great doubt, peering into the aperture of enlightenment. Perhaps you'd like to go and one-handed clap someone for trying to steal the moon before you like, comment, subscribe, and leave me a message to tell me how awesome I am and feed my ego. And remember, most importantly, the ingenious, inspirational, and occasionally incapacitating girl in my head suggests that all minds, bodies, and souls are interwoven and connected. So, just be careful where you put your fingers. See you next time.